Hey folks, just a quick check-in before this video to let you know that my wife and I were very fortunate to welcome our first child into the world a couple of weeks ago. So there's been a bit of a delay in recording videos. That will probably continue for another week or two. I do have some great content coming, but I just wanted to let you know that there will be a bit of a delay probably in getting those out to you. So for those of you that are waiting for any of those new reviews that I've mentioned before, so things like the Audio-Technica ATH M50X, the Bose Quiet Comfort QC35 Mark II, and also I've got a bit of an interesting piece hopefully on how to choose the right headphones, how to audition products, whether it's DACs, amplifiers, headphones, all that kind of how to make the right decisions content I've got coming up soon as well. So if they're interesting to you, do think about hitting the subscribe button and stay tuned. I will have more content coming soon. And also, while we're at it, I just want to make a reminder, the last draw, which was for the Moondrop Starfield IEMs, has not been claimed. So Cyclonosaurus Rex, if you're watching this, you do need to check out your previous comment that I replied to find out how to claim that prize. Or you can comment on this video and I'll make sure to send the details through there. If I don't hear from you within a week of posting this video, I will be redrawing that and letting some other lucky person know that they've won the Moondrop Starfield IEMs. For now though, let me get out of the way and hand over to the next Sound Decisions episode. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again soon. Hey folks, welcome to an episode of Sound Decisions here on Passion for Sound. I've recently done a few IEM reviews, and as part of that, one of the things that's come up for me and in some of the conversations in the comments has been the choice of tips to go with various IEMs. So I want to talk briefly about how to choose the right tips for you. Now, I'm not talking about it in terms of size because that's a really difficult topic. Different manufacturers have slightly different sizing for things like small, medium and large. So that can be really tricky, and you probably just need to try out different sizes with each manufacturer to see which ones work best for you. Part of that is also that they've all got different profiles. So some tips are going to be longer and narrower, even though the total diameter might be the same as a tip from another manufacturer whose tip is shorter and fatter, but the same diameter in total. So they're going to insert differently and sit differently in your ear. So that's very much something, unfortunately, you have to do trial and error on yourself as to which size from each manufacturer is right for you. One of the good things is a lot of manufacturers will sell their tips in mixed lots where you can get a small, a medium and a large, for instance, in a single pack, or a pair of those obviously, in a single pack, so you can try it out and find what size from that manufacturer works for you. That's what I did with my SpinFits, and I've actually found it was really helpful because on certain earphones I might like their medium, and on others I might actually want their large or their small. So it all depends sometimes on the size of the nozzle, the length of the nozzle, and how the earphone sits in your ear. Moving beyond that though, let's talk a bit about the design of the ear tips and what it means for the sound of your earphone. First and foremost, there's essentially two materials that get used in the production of ear tips. You've got foam ear tips that are often from companies like Comply or Deconi make them as well. So they're the squishy ear tips that you compress and then you stick in your ear and they expand out to fill your ear canal. Generally speaking, the foam tips are great if you're looking to pull back some of the treble on an earphone. They're also better at isolating the external noises from around you in the environment, but they do need to be replaced fairly regularly. Because the foam is porous, it will absorb the earwax from your ear, and so they do get a bit grubby over time. The other issue with them is they lose that springiness over time. I find personally I can't be bothered with foam ear tips. I get sick and tired of replacing them. I get sick and tired of them being all manky and waxy, and so I generally personally don't use them, but I know a lot of people love them for that isolation and the ability to sometimes tame the treble, and therefore from a perception point of view at least, create a sense of a bit more bass and a bit more warmth in the earphone. Generally speaking, I would only recommend foam tips to someone if they're specifically looking to reduce the treble output of the earphone or increase that sense of warmth, and or if they need better isolation. Other than that, I just think silicone tips are the way to go, but that's just my opinion for the reasons I've just described. Where I felt this video was probably more important was talking about silicone tips, because every silicone tip has the potential to sound different from another silicone tip, and depending on the earphone you're matching it up with. And there's really two, maybe three factors that go into this. The first factor is the design of the tip itself. So the ear tips, and I don't know if you can see here on the desk, I've got a little lineup of silicone tips here. Each of these silicone tips is roughly the same size. They're all ones that I would use on earphones in my ears, and yet they've all got different dimensions. So you've got two generic ones here that have come from manufacturers as part of their package. The white one here is a little bit lower than, or shorter you could say, than the other one next to it, which is also shorter than the spin fit here. And then the spiral dot is shorter again, but broader than all four of them. So all of them are slightly different dimensions. The other thing that you're not going to be able to see easily is that the actual bore, so the space down through the middle of the ear tips, and I'm not expecting you to be able to see clearly the difference in size, but the piece I'm talking about is this hole down through the middle. That's different on all of them. And what that does is it also changes the sound characteristics of the earphone by changing the frequency response of the tube that the music has to travel through. Now that couples up to your ear canal, and so there's a mixture of factors going on here that can make it a little bit difficult to predict 100% what the effect is going to be of each ear tip. And that's where I think it's a fantastic idea to have multiple ear tips on hand, build up a collection over time, and when you get a new earphone, try different tips on it and see what you hear. For example, today when I was reviewing the Moondrop Starfield IEMs, I flipped between the stock tip, which is this grey one here. I then tried the spiral dots from JVC, which are a fantastic tip, and there was a slight change in sound. And then I moved on to the spin fits, which are often my favourite, and lo and behold, the sound was better with the spin fits. That was for that particular earphone. On the recently reviewed Shozzy 1.4s, I chose the spiral dots out of all the choices because they sounded the best with the 1.4s. So it is very much a personal thing. And I want to talk briefly about what is going to factor into the sound. I've talked about the size of the hole through the middle of the ear tip. What that's generally going to do is a narrower ear tip is generally going to produce a little bit stronger sense of bass and a little bit less treble. The broader ear tips then, in contrast, tend to let more of that treble energy through, and therefore you'll get a slightly brighter sound in a lot of cases. But there is more to it than that. It's not always cut and dry. The other thing that plays into this is the depth of insertion in your ear. Now, everybody's ear canal is slightly different. They've all got a certain length to them, but they've also got different curves and different shapes to them as well. So what's happening when you're putting an earpiece into your ear, the ear tip is allowing you to get that earphone a certain depth into the ear. And so the point at which the sound wave leaves the earphone into your ear canal could be this long, obviously in scale, this long or this long or this long. Now, every time you change the length of that tube, you're changing the resonance within the ear canal, and that can change very subtly, but that can change the sound that you hear and the frequencies that are more or less enhanced by the length of that tube and the overall coupling of the earphone with your ear canal. So probably by now what you're starting to understand is that it's a really complex thing, and that's why it's hard to predict. The width of the bore, the depth of insertion, the materials that the ear tip is made out of, all of that plays into how an earphone sounds in your particular ear with a particular tip. Add to that the fact that the frequency response of the earphone is different, and therefore as different frequencies are boosted or attenuated by your ear canal, you're going to get better or worse results depending on the ear tip, the ear canal, and the earphone combination. And that's why it all comes back, to me at least, it all comes back to having a good range of ear tips, to swap them out, try what works for you, and just see which one you enjoy the most. Don't worry about which one is meant to be better or should be better or anything like that. It always should come down to, when you put it in your ear, which ear tip do you feel like you want to go back to and listen to again? Sometimes comfort's a part of that too. Sometimes it's the look of it actually might win you over, because our visual perception is tied very tightly to our auditory perception. If you like the look of an ear tip on an earphone, you actually might enjoy the sound of it more. It's a real thing. It seems crazy, but it's actually true. In fact, I just recently posted a video over on my Facebook page, the Passion for Sound Facebook page, talking about that exact phenomenon of our visual senses affecting how we hear things. So do check out the Passion for Sound Facebook page if you're interested in seeing more about that. Now, the final thing I want to mention is that some aftermarket ear tips have special features that make them quite helpful. And I'm going to pick on two in particular here because they're two of my favorites, and that is the spiral dot and the spin fits. So with the spiral dots, JVC have built into these a series of dots in a spiral formation, strangely enough, that go up the inside of the tube. So looking at the tube, there are about 4 series, maybe 5 series of dots that start at the bottom of the tube and then curve their way up. And then there's a gap, and then there's another set, and then there's a gap, and then there's another set. And so what that's doing in theory is helping to change the turbulence or the movement of the air through the ear tip itself. I don't know whether that actually makes a difference or not, But one of the reasons I often come back to these is they're quite a short, flat tip, and so they can often allow a deeper insertion than other tips. They're also a very soft tip, so they make a really good seal in the ear canal itself, and that can help with your bass response because you're getting that clean seal. Onto the spin fits now, and the reason I love these is that they've got quite a strong central core. If I peel that back, they've got this coloured central core and it's quite rigid. Now that can alter the sound because the firmness of that center tube affects the way it may absorb or reflect the sound coming through the earpiece. I'm not going to say whether it's better or worse. It's one of those many factors that goes into the end sound that you perceive in your ears, and it's one of the reasons why lots of different ear tips are a good idea, because a softer one or a firmer one may actually produce better sound for your ears and your earphone. The reason I like the spin fits though is at the end of that firm central column is a slightly weaker section that allows the centerpiece to pivot really easily. And what it means is that when you put these in your ear, the tip is more prone to tilt and adjust to the angle of the earpiece sitting into your ear canal. That for me is absolute gold, because not all earphones are designed to fit my ear perfectly. Universals are exactly that. They're universal, they're not custom. And so having an ear tip like the spin fit that's going to adapt a little bit to the shape of your ear anatomy is a fantastic bonus when you've got a difficult to fit universal monitor or an unusually shaped ear that makes things a bit difficult. So to sum all this up, if I can make one recommendation, it's go out and get yourself a set of maybe spin fits and spiral dots. They're two really good starting options. I know that spin fits provide a mixed size package because that's what I got and it's been really helpful. I wasn't able to find the spiral dots in the same mixed size package, so I had to take a punt and order the mediums. Thankfully it was the right size for me. But I do think if you're into IEMs, do take the time to play with different tips, build up a collection of tips, and see what you like and what suits the different IEMs in your collection. You may find you've got an earphone sitting there that you don't exactly love, but it's good enough that you've not gotten rid of. You put a different tip on it, and all of a sudden it's the perfect earphone. For example, I once fell out of love with the Campfire Audio Andrometers, which were a brilliant earphone, and it was after I got enamored with the spin fits and I fitted spin fits to my Andrometers. Sometime later I was fiddling around and I needed the spin fits from the Andrometers for something else. I replaced them with a different tip that was a much shallower depth, and therefore inserted the nozzle on the Andrometer closer into my ear canal, and all of a sudden they came alive again and my love for the Andrometers returned. So think of that as a cautionary tale. Try lots of different tips because you might be surprised what a certain earphone can be capable of when you get the right insertion depth in your ear. I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, have a think about hitting the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps the channel and it helps me to keep making new content like this for you. Make sure you keep checking out the reviews that I'm posting because I've got lots of giveaways going on all the time now, and all you have to do to win those giveaways is be a subscriber and leave comments on those particular videos where I mention the giveaways. Also, if you want extra chances to win every single giveaway, jump through to the Patreon link below, have a look at the tiers, and you can join up and get more chances to win free gear every single time I give away a product. For now though, happy listening, and I'll see you here next time on Passion for Sound.